Alright, now, this is the last chapter before the epilogue, so we're getting close to the end here. A particular pudgy pooch sat all alone in the living room. Another morning, another news report, always another, never something new. If only he could see the little piece of life he gave to this cruel, cruel world. And then someone came knocking. He opened the door, about to growl at an unwanted guest. But this guest was someone he wanted more than anything else. He made a familiar happy whine and bent down to pinch her cheeks. But Roxanne just smacked her daddy's paws away. "You told Tom I was seeing Max, didn't you?" she coldly asked. Daddy grumbled without looking at his daughter. He couldn't believe she was still in some random kid she only knew from high school. Then Roxanne wiped some makeup off her face, revealing a big bruise. Daddy flinched. "This isn't the work of the man I'm seeing," she stated. Then she simply took off. "Roxanne?" That was a shock. Very rarely did words come out of that mutt's mouth. Roxanne sat at the table, tending to the bruise more with a pack of ice. Daddy sat far across from her, thinking of something to say for once. "I'm sorry," he finally said. I always wanted to make you happy. I wanted to make sure that you found someone who made you happy. But I thought no one was. So many of those high school boys broke your heart, and Thomas just seemed like the perfect guy. Gentleman, decent, civil, but..." Roxanne took the pack away from her eye and set it on the table. She quietly stood up and looked her daddy dead in the eye. "I decide what's best for me, Dad," she proclaimed. Roxanne walked back into the house she shared with Thomas. Once again, he was gone, off doing business. Could we just run away? Roxanne thought. Just end everything right here and go stay with Max. But Roxanne knew it couldn't be that easy. Maybe Thomas was right. It could be even worse if she was with Max. He didn't know what he was doing. How could it work out? They couldn't just run away. Then Roxanne crossed Barry's room. There was no Barry, and the window was open. A sulking Max was passing by his dad's house. Perhaps a good word with him would do some good. But there was no car in the driveway. Max decided to just wait for him. He lifted up the welcome mat for the spare key. But it wasn't there. Cautiously, Max turned the knob. The door was indeed open. Then his phone rang. Barry was curled up under the bed sheets. All around hung memorabilia from decades past. He imagined what it would be like to grow up in this time. Then in came Max, phone to his ear. "Yeah, he's here." "Are you talking to Mom?" Barry exclaimed. Max hung up the phone. "Barry, it's okay." "No!" Barry screamed, violently thrashing around. "It's not okay. I can't take it anymore." Max sat beside Barry and held onto him tight. Without saying a word, he waited for his son to calm down. Barry finally let out all his tears. Max took a deep breath. "Barry, there's something I need to tell you." Barry anticipated more of the same. "I can't be with you. It's not right. Tom is your father. Tom's not your real father." Barry couldn't believe what he was hearing. He looked at Max. Me and your mom were in love when we were in high school, Max explained. Then she left me when she got pregnant with you. She thought we couldn't be together. I don't know if we can. Barry looked into Max's eyes, filled with desperation. But Barry, Max continued, I love you. I love you, and I love your mother. Whatever happens, I want you to know that. Barry was filled with so much emotions. Finally knowing the truth, he began to cry tears of happiness. Knowing he was with his true father at last, he embraced Max. About 10 minutes later, in came Roxanne, as well as the Goof Master himself. The sight of father and son cradled together made hearts flutter. Now, the only question, Goofy began, what's Thomas going to say? That didn't amuse Roxanne. Max gave Goofy a cold look, but Goofy wasn't worried. I have a bit of a proposition, he said. Classical music from the orchestra, suits and dresses, perfect attention to detail everywhere. Just the kind of place for Thomas. He stood on stage, proud of everything, though everyone else looked bored out of their minds, especially the kids who were dragged along. Good evening, friends and co-workers, he began, as everything went quiet. As I'm sure you know, this has been a bit of a rocky year. Some of us have fallen short when it comes to sales. Everyone tried to refrain from showing their annoyance. At least they all tried. They knew Thomas just played golf with the head guys. But, Thomas continued, the important thing to remember is when you fall short, you get right back up. Let this year be a motivation for all of us to... But then the room went black, startling everyone. Suddenly, some distortion was heard from behind the stage. Thomas peeked back there. He was just about to lose his mind. There stood his supposed wife and son with some crazy band. Thomas was just about ready to charge right into Max. I wouldn't, Max warned, as Bobby pulled the lever. As he was charging, Thomas fell right into the trapdoor to the basement. All he could do now was watch the show from his dusty abode. Roxanne simply waved at him, a goodbye wave of sorts. The lights came up, putting on a performance no one saw coming. The kids were quite hyped. About time for some real music, they thought. The bang doll kicked into high gear, while Barry just danced around the stage. Max stepped up to the mic, ready to sing his heart out to the angel beside him. I got myself a notion, and one I know that you'll understand. I set the world in motion by reaching out for each other's hand. Maybe we'll discover what we should have known all along, yeah. One way or another, together's where we both belong. With a mic in her hand, Roxanne joined in with her beloved Maxie. If we listen to each other's heart, we'll find we're never too far apart. And maybe love is the reason why, for the first time ever, we're seeing it eye to eye. Goofy merrily watched from backstage. Minnie came out onto the dance floor. As Max kicked in with a super solo, Barry peeked down to see his father, not father, Thomas, stuck in the basement. Thomas simply folded his arms and shook his head. That definitely threw Barry off. But then, down in the basement, Thomas noticed some red ice glowing in the darkness. He could hear a growl amidst all the music. Daddy lunged for the monster who beat his daughter. Thomas ran screaming all around the basement. Goofy shielded Barry's eyes from the sight to come and lifted up the trap door. Then they simply joined everyone else out in the front of the stage. If you're ever lonely, Stop. You don't have to be. After all, it's only a bit away from you and me. Take a look inside and see. If we value each other's heart, we'll find we're never too far apart. And maybe love is the reason why, for the first time ever, we're seeing it eye to eye.